Okay, we're live. I think we're good. Just try to start the live. It was having some connection errors, so I had to jump off and hop back on. Happy Monday. Thank you for joining back on, guys. I'm going to try it now, and hopefully we don't have any issues. Got the headset on, so maybe that'll make a difference. Yeah, like I was saying, we're going to do this Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. This week, I want to cover a lot of ground. So we're going to start with this video. This is number 10. This is the 10th one I've done in a row without missing a day. So pat on my back for the consistency. But so I got a great question on the live that we did, the Q&A. And basically the question was, how do you put a dog in their place? Right? And not meaning the place command, but the lady was referring to me saying, you got to put that dog in its place. And I've said that a couple times probably on the last 10 videos. And she wants to know, well, what does that look like? And you know, how do I do it? What does it mean? Okay. What I was meaning in those lives, more than likely, was put a dog in its place was like, you know, correct the nonsense and put them in their place on the hierarchy. Right? And that still sounds like, hey, what the heck does that mean? Well, listen, we're going to get to how to put a dog in their place. We're going to get to the whys of it, the benefits of it, and the actual practical how. Like literally, how do you do it? What are the techniques? What are the tools? What are the setups? We'll get there. But we need to go back and we need to, for me, I'm going to bring it full circle, okay? Because we can do this, because I'm doing these lives every day, Monday through Friday, we can take our time with this. This is a very, very important thing to talk about. A lot of people aren't sure how to correct dogs' bad behavior. A lot of owners aren't sure how. They're not sure when. They're not sure why. They don't know what a respectful dog looks like, what disrespectful dog behavior is. So if you're patient with me, I'd like to take the course of however many videos it takes, hopefully, you know, by the end of this week, we'll have where I want to be as far as understanding to how to put your dog in its place and why you should, and why you should hopefully know a little bit about the hierarchy. So I'm going to get into dog behavior, pack theory, this kind of stuff that I never talk about because we just don't have the time to sit down and make videos like this. I'm going to get into. So thank you for joining, everybody. Sorry about the first time. It looks like it's going better. I'm going to get started. So yeah, the question is how to put a dog in their place, but we're going to go back to dog behavior, pack theory, okay? This is what you need to know. In a pack of dogs, any pack of dogs, whether they're wolves and it's mama and papa, or more like what we want to look at is like street dogs getting together and forming a pack that aren't from the same litter. This is more like what we want to study. If you look at these packs of dogs, and you can just imagine, you don't even have to go look at them because you can just imagine that this is true. One of those dogs in that pack is eating more than the rest. One of them eats more than the rest. And it's not because the rest don't want to eat more. One dog, or a couple of the dogs will be eating more, but one dog will be eating as much as it wants, pretty much, okay? There's also going to be a dog in that pack that's not eating so much, but it wants to eat more, but it's not. Why is this? We got to look at Mother Nature. I hope you guys are ready to follow me today, okay? Mother Nature, if you go by the belief that Mother Nature is perfect, which is how I entered the dog training thing so I can wrap my mind around it. Mother Nature's one goal is the survival of the species and for the species to thrive, right? Not just to survive, but to thrive. So if we go back and we look at things like theories like survival of the fittest, that's pretty much what that's saying. It's Mother Nature's way of saying, hey, the animal who's doing best in this pack, I want it to be eating more and I want it to be the only one that procreates. So therefore, those genetics move on because it seems to be successful in this environment. So we want this genetic to move on. And we want the ones that aren't doing so well in this environment, who aren't doing so good at surviving, we don't want their genetics to move on. This is Mother Nature. This isn't me. This is the survival of the species is what Mother Nature is concerned about, right? So that's why dogs have a hierarchy. It's simply because We want the best genetics to move forward. That's it. And so there's no hard feelings to the guy or gal who's at the bottom of that hierarchy, who eats the least. We're not saying that she doesn't deserve to eat more and that she's not just, you know what I mean, or he. It's just that's not how it's working out in this particular life for that dog in its environment. It's doing poorer at surviving. So therefore, it's not going to have access to the resources because it's not going to get strong enough to then work its way up to the point where it can procreate, right? Because by the time it's time to get with the ladies, all the dogs want to get with the ladies. And if you haven't been eating and you're not strong and you're not confident, you're not getting with the lady, okay? So go on YouTube and watch wild street dogs fighting over a pregnant dog, and you're going to see days of footage. They edit it down, but it's days of footage of dogs following this chick in heat, this female dog in heat. And they fight over her for days and days and days. And finally it comes down to this pit bull and this Rottweiler, and they go at it. I can't remember which one wins. I think the Rottie might have won, but I can't remember. Guarding that female like a resource. And again, it all comes down to resources. So, pack theory. Now you understand. Yes, I know your dogs are domestic dogs, loose lead pets. We are going back to dog theory, and we're going to make our way to domestic dogs, okay? The only difference between a domestic dog and a street dog is somebody gave them a home, okay? And they learned social skills to fit in with humans. They come from the same place. So, now we understand why there's packs. Now we understand how they work. Why is this particular dog who's eating all the food getting all the food? What's happening? What happens, and some of this terminology is going to be just to be clear, okay? What happens is if this pack is living together and they're spending time together enough, they're going to have a ranking, okay? They're kind of going to have somewhat of a ranking, and it's all based off on resources. All they care about, other than having fun, is knowing who's going to be getting first access to the next awesome thing that comes into the environment, or the next awesome thing that we find, okay? So what they do, they figure this out through conflict. The way they figure it out is they're all hungry, or they all see something they want. They all go to get it, and they fight over it. The first time, they fight over it. And somebody ends up getting it, and maybe somebody ends up getting pieces of it, and then some of them have none of it. After this is done, everybody kind of settles down and whatnot. Next time there's another resource, they go at it again. But what happens is they start to realize, like, oh, this dog's always going to win. So they start to say, okay, that guy, we're not messing with his resources. I might be able to mess with this guy for a little bit. And they start ranking each other based off of these experiences. So what's important about this is that the dogs are figuring it out through confrontation. Okay, this is what's important about the domestic dog, the difference between the domestic dog and these dogs out here. They're figuring that social hierarchy out every time there's conflict. That's how they figure it out. They don't sit down and talk about it before the conflict. It happens when there's conflict, and it's maintained through conflict, which means it can change. It can change if a dog who was once on top gets injured or something like that. Next time there's a conflict, it can change, right? We can see a shift in who gets the access and who's going to be considered to be that alpha dog or whatever. But why is this important? Well, it's important because the domestic dog, the dog who's in the family right now, we're not able to have any control over, that dog thinks he's the alpha dog. Well, let's just say they think that they have first access to all the resources in the average home because everything's given to them. Right, so they get their bed given to them, they get their food given to them, they get their toys given to them, they get catered to and all this. So in their eyes, because everything's resources with a dog, fun, events, and resources, that's all that dogs care about, man. That's it. So everything is given to this dog. That's other members of its pack, the humans, are giving them things. There's no conflict over things. This dog now believes that it's in that position. Whether it's a little Chihuahua or it's a big Saint Bernard, they're going to believe that they are higher up on the totem pole. So therefore, they're going to behave that way, right? And that's where you can get a bratty dog and a dog who tries to challenge you, because in their head, if they get first access to all these resources, hell, you're going out of your way and just giving them it, they're God. They must be. They must be, right? Because these resources are showering on them. And that's not how it works in the wild. Resources are very valuable and they're fought for. So if you look at a pack of dogs, let's say the domestic dogs, this is why they're the same as these pack of dogs out here. They just might not know that it's rude to jump, or they might be nervous of people or whatever. They're still dogs. Dogs are dogs are dogs are dogs. Give me a dog from 200 years ago and I'm going to treat it the same. It's a dog, okay? Dog first, and then we can talk about the breed and blah, 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 blah. But listen, we take a few dogs that live together in a household. We put them together, and they're fighting over a resource. They can fight over a bone. They can fight over this kind of stuff, right? This is the same stuff. They want to figure it out. They want to figure it out. Who's going to have first access to this stuff, you know? They want to challenge each other. So let's get to making this get out of the wild, and let's get back to like 21st century when we see two dogs and they meet. We're on the street, we're walking, you know, people want to meet, want their dogs to greet. We come from two separate packs, you know. What is the first thing these dogs want to do? Let's just make it two young males. What is the first thing they want to do when they meet, right? They want to, first of all, they're probably all really crazy about doing it, and they want to go up and boom, sniff each other's butts. Right? So we can figure out who you are, who I am. And if we're having trouble with that because I want to sniff yours, but you want to sniff mine, and we both want to be dominant, and not one of us is willing to be polite and a little bit submissive to the other, then we could run into some problems. Right? But let's say by some miracle we get to the butts and we are sniffing each other's butts. Okay, cool. You sniffed each other's butts, and now you're done with that. And now what do they want to do? Yeah, that's when you start seeing one of them put the head over the shoulder of the other, starting to think dirty thoughts, wanting to hump. Why does this dog, and this happens all the time, they want to hump now. They're the same sex. It's not for procreation. Why do they want to hump? Because if dog A can hump dog B, and dog B can't do anything about it or just lets it happen, that means dog A essentially has first access to all the resources. It's built in them. This is how they survive. Whether they know it or not, the dog's not thinking like this. But that means because I can do this to you at will, that means that when there's something important in the environment that I want, you'll know that I can do that to you. It's the same reason men do it to each other, I'm sure. I mean, they don't have to be humping each other, but I heard they do. Just for dominance. I've got family members in the prisons. I know what's up. I know what happens in there. So, and guys do it to each other on the playground. You know, that's what a push is. If I can push you and you don't get up and do anything about it, then we both know. And so why is it that a dog wants to have this conversation first? Because that's how they operate. That's how they operate. That's all they're concerned with. Am I having fun? And do I have access to the resources over top of everybody else? That's all they care about. That's it. They're simple. So they want to hump so that they can who's more dominant is what you can see. That's the terminology. They're always trying to be dominant. Yeah, he's trying to be dominant because he wants to know. First of all, it feels good. You could literally see dogs get off on humping another male dog. You see that too. But nature puts it in place so that they have the urge to do this, so that this conversation is had and the structure is formed immediately upon meeting. They don't wait days to do this. Now I'm getting there to the pet dog and why we can't put our dog in its place and what does it mean and all. You see, I'm getting there because now what will happen if, let's say this dog who won that altercation, we'll say dog A won it over dog B submitted, allowed him to hump him or whatever. The humans usually get involved, but let's say they didn't and it just happened. Now let's take dog A and pop him over to a new dog C. Okay? And we're going to be in a closed-in area, and we're going to let them go meet. Now, dog C is a little bit older, and let's say the two young dogs, they were probably a year and a half, right? Now this younger dog's coming up with a little bit of confidence because he had already done this to a few other dogs, right? He gets up on this dog who is naturally a little bit more experienced, a little bit bigger, a little bit more balanced. A balanced dog won't overcorrect. The overcorrections are the dogs who are insecure and wonky upstairs, so they end up tearing a dog up because they overreact. Dog who's balanced, here we go. I got my dog Dexter in mind, if anybody wants a reference of the dog, if you guys know my old dog Dexter from back in my old days. He's 130 pounds, St. Bernard mix. He's big, he's physically big, the dogs can tell it, but he's also calm. Now this dog wants to come up and greet him for the first time. Maybe, depending on this dog's confidence level, it might actually just look at the size and start acting a little bit more respectfully when he approaches him, which is, what is respectful behavior when coming up on another dog? Low and slow. So a dog kind of lowers their head. Yeah, oh, it looks like they're scared. No, they're being respectful. They're being respectful and they're going slow. Maybe he does this and he'll be okay, right? He'll be okay. Maybe he gets hot and heavy and he goes high and fast. Boom, chest up, head up, tail up, fast, right at you. That's the best way to start a dog fight with an older dog. It's the best way to get corrected. So let's say this dog comes up and starts its shit. Let's say he takes this road and he's like, I'm going right for your ass. Like, I don't care who you are. Here's the rule in sniffing. You don't sniff the dog who ranks higher above, right? It's a disrespectful thing. So if we're trying to sniff, and it can change between like if the dog knows each other and whatnot, but let's say two strangers of the same sex, because it can also change if it's a female. Male dogs will treat female dogs differently because they can now see them as a resource. They're not just another pack member, they're also a resource, and I think that's the obvious reason as to why they can see them as a resource, right? So they might treat them a little sweeter. But let's say a young male coming up on that older male, and he comes up hot and heavy like that, that is not going to be allowed. He's going to move away at the very least, not letting him sniff his ass, but then he's going to posture. And this is how the conflict takes place. There's stages. He's going to warn him first. He's going to posture up and say, dude, I'm warning you. Okay? If the dog wants to keep continuing to try to sniff him, which is disrespectful to... The older dog finds it disrespectful because I should be sniffing you and you shouldn't be trying to sniff me yet. This is how this goes. Show respect. He tries again. He might even get a little snap, a growl, or even a correction. Now, in that moment, when the correction takes place, how the dog, the young dog, dog A, reacts to the correction it's going to influence how dogs C, the bigger, older dog, reacts back. Okay, so in this moment, he says, stop. The big dog, the older dog, stop. And he bites him, gives him a little correction. Doesn't break skin, maybe, but just enough just to tell him, I'm serious. Now, if dog A decides to whimper and walk away, and then maybe come back softly and low and slow, which is the proper approach, that dog will be fine. And this dog might even loosen up and end up being all right with this young dog because now they understand, hey, if you listen to me and you don't do what I don't like, me and you are going to be okay. They'll do fine. But let's say dog A doesn't do that. Let's say dog A is all up on his fucking cocky ass pedestal because he's bullied a few other dogs. He lives like a king or a prince at home. And he just thinks he's got this false confidence because it is false. This guy's going to get his ass kicked by this older dog. That's why I use the dog who is an obvious example. Like, it's obvious this big dog could physically dominate if he wanted to. Maybe he comes back with a couple bites himself. Now he's got himself in a dog fight. And one that he's going to lose, right? One that a human's going to have to come in and do something about. And the thing is now that the humans separated, if that dog doesn't submit, dog A doesn't learn to submit to this guy, there's going to be confrontation at sight. They're not going to like each other. Do that a few times, you got a grudge. And a grudge is when dogs see each other and they're triggered by that particular dog. Okay? But so if the young guy doesn't submit right there, what I would do if it starts into a fight after that, I'm going to go break it up, right? But then I'm going to submit the young guy myself. I'm going to tell my dog to knock it the fuck off. And then I'm going to bring them back together. And while I'm submitting this dog, and we'll get into all this shit, the dog whispering stuff. While I'm submitting dog A for being disrespectful, while he's sitting there, I let my dog, the big dog, dog C, come sniff him. Because that's how it goes around here. That dog was put in his place. Now get up, young guy. You're okay. Brush it off. Come here and hang out with the big boys. But notice now his behavior is different. Now he's low. Oh, he's scared. No. He's respectful, and animal to animal, he knows that he's not with mommy right now. He's with a dog that could kill him and a human that could kill him. Just animal to animal. Laws and civilization, we're not even thinking about that. We're just thinking, this is where you are right now. You need to recognize this is a possibility out here in the world. And because we didn't kill you, we like you. we just don't like you doing this shit, this hierarchical shit. There's no game to play here. And that's how we'll get a dog to view us, right? And now my dog can now be where he needs to be in the pack, which is below me, and that young guy is below him. And this is good for that young guy. And he'll learn how to meet other adult dogs and other young dogs while he's with somebody like me, and how to greet them. When you're being inappropriate, when you shouldn't be having sexual thoughts over that young girl like that. You shouldn't be going and acting on them, let's say. Whatever thought you have, that's fine, but you're not allowed to hump her, and you're not allowed to hump him. And here's how you have a cocktail party versus a damn Super Bowl bash, right? Where we're all freaking going crazy and getting drunk. That's not what we're doing. I'm going to teach you how to say hi. I'm going to teach you how, straighten your tie, be a gentleman, okay? Now, these are the type of questions. This is what we're getting at. What does submitting the younger dog look like? That looks like, if you guys know social pressure, it's a term that trainers use a lot. Social pressure, spatial pressure. These are things you learn to use on a dog after correction. So after a physical correction, there's a lot of, the best place to watch it is Cesar Millan, the old dog whispering stuff. I say that all the time. First few seasons, you're going to notice after he corrects a dog, he submits a dog. This is what he says. And you'll see it's not always a side submission, although a side submission is usually reserved for dogs who are doing the big bad stuff, is biting. One of his things is, which I've adopted over the years, is if a dog tries to strike in any sense of the form, it gets the worst possible consequence, which is a side submission eventually. And if you watch him do it, it's definitely finesse, and there's a lot of skill that goes into doing it. But this process is invaluable because you can do what a dog can do to another dog and land the message the same in the brain. And it's a game changer because dogs submit each other. That's what they do. Okay, so one way is humping, of course, right? That's one way to have that conversation. Another way is to submit the other dog. So the other dog will literally stand over top of the other dog, and anytime it tries to move, give it little corrections. It sounds worse than it is. But like they sound like they're killing each other, but they're not really. A balanced dog knows how hard to bite and how to correct firmly, lightly, and then how to tear something up if they want to. It's not like they just can only tear a dog's face off. They know what they're doing. That's oftentimes when dogs are in a scuffle who live in the same family, there's not even a mark on them. It's because they know. They're just trying to win the fight. They're not trying to kill each other. So they submit each other. So this is part of nature's thing of like, this is how we don't... Sorry about that. I got a phone call coming in, and I never get phone calls. This is how we can live with each other, have disagreements, and not have the disagreement tomorrow without having to kill each other. There can be these things called submitting. So if you say, okay, you're right, you can have the bone, then we don't have to keep doing this. And that's nature's way of saying, well, I can't have you killing each other all the time over a bone. So there has to be a way where it's like, well, who wants it more? Who's physically fit more? Who's able to put the other one on the side and, easier. And that's just a way of them determining who gets the goddamn bone without having to kill the other one, right? After a few of these conversations, though, the dog already knows that dog's able to do that, so they're not doing it all the time. They don't have to. That's their relationship. That's the hierarchy. You see how this is all going. So now when new things enter the environment and they both show interest, the dog who has previously submitted is going to allow the dog who did the submitting to decide how to deal with the new thing. Whether it's a resource or it's an invader or whatever, a stranger, this dog who is now, let's say, the alpha dog or whatever, the leader, because he won these conversations, he's now just allowed by the other dogs to have the access first. He will be challenged from time to time because that's what dogs do. But as long as he's there and showing that he's strong, they're going to back down. But they had to have that one conversation or two so that the experience was there. Okay? This is natural. This is nature. Do you understand that dogs are nature, right? We got a little piece of nature living with us. So we're going back to the question, how do you put a dog in their place? You're seeing me describe it. This is how dogs are doing it. This is how humans can learn how to do it. There's more to this question we're going to get to, but you can see if you don't think of a dog as a dog, then you're going to be very confused. You're going to say, well, I wonder, how do I put a dog in its place? What does it mean? If you see dogs as dogs and you've done your research of how they operate, it's going to seem very odd of a question of how to put a dog in their place. Because the thing is, you can't just go up to a dog who's doing nothing and just go put it in its place. It's always during a conversation that comes up, and nature has these conversations of, hey, resources, here's food. That's going to create a conflict, and how it's resolved is going to determine how you treat each other, and what's going to happen is that's how those are created, and that's also how it's maintained. So 6 months later, if you forgot who I am or whatever, I can remind you over one of these conversations when you want to step your bounds, when you want to overstep your bounds and push your boundaries. I can put you in your place by reminding you, hey, remember. And that's what relationship is. That's how you can get through your life with your relationship. If you've had the right events happen with your dog where you have put them in their place, if you will, then they listen to you. But you earned it. It wasn't free. So learning how to do that kind of stuff, if I was a dog owner, that would be my top priority. Okay? So we covered dominance hierarchy. Why does it exist? Now you know. Right? Why do dogs hump? We get that. It's just another point as to this is what dogs are thinking all the time. Am I having fun, or am I dealing with a hierarchical dispute? This is all they care about. This is it. And being comfy. Okay? Okay, do dogs see us as pack members? That's one thing. It's like, well, I know dogs see each other as pack members. Can they see a human? Now, yes, dogs do see you as their family and as their pack members. However, there are certain dogs, if they've never been held accountable or taught that they should be led by a human, and they have that species barrier where they're like, I only listen to other dogs, and humans are just kind of like our maids with thumbs that get stuff for us. A lot of dogs live in that place where there's like, yeah, my human is my family and they're my pack, but they don't speak dog. So I got my own thing going on with the dogs, but I also have my relationship with my humans, but they're kind of separate. And that's where you can see dogs fighting. Dogs in the same household fighting because the human's not involved in their mind as part of that pack. Because you never spoken to the dog like a dog, right? So they just think that you're just the caterer. And they love you and they both love you, but here's where it gets even worse. You're also a resource because humans mean access to resources that dogs without thumbs can't get. So dogs will actually fight each other over humans, and it's not because they love you more. I'm sorry. It's because you're a resource. It's because you can open the food and the doors and all this shit, and I'm sorry. But that's why, okay? And so... but a human who steps in and says, no, I'm part of this pack, and actually, here's rule number 1, no fighting over hierarchy. So like, you're both under me, and if we have a problem with that, we'll talk about that. And you can't fight with each other over resources or any type of hierarchical stuff. Like, I don't want to see you try to hump. I don't want to see you try to dominate. That gets shut down by me. We all got the rules. Okay, cool. Now let's live together, right? So... But many dogs are not part of their humans. They don't see their humans as leaders. They just don't. They see them as resources, okay? Let's get some questions and then we'll get back to this. It is always necessary for dogs to have that combo at least once or twice. Agreed. I think that dogs are going to have it with each other, and whether or not the human is wise to this knowledge and knows how to do it, if you are, you should absolutely be having that conversation. The first conversation I have with a dog that I want to live with in any board and train, it's the same as any dog. I want to have these certain conversations first so that you know who you're with and what's to be expected, and then the dog listens a lot better. Let's get here. Yeah, so you're not going to see it. So you're saying that you don't see it, which is probably a good thing, which is the dominant stuff. If you step in to two dogs and you take charge and you are saying, both of you listen to me individually and together as a unit, you still listen to me and you're still under my influence. I come first, and I don't want you two fighting over things or anything. You'll never see it, because you know why? Because you are that dog. You've done it. Like, if you were just another dog and not a human, you would see dog fights in order for that dog to gain control over those two dogs. But you have control over these two dogs, so you have the e-collar program and stuff. You're using it. You're being a leader. And so they see you as that leader. They can follow you just like they would follow another dog, but even better, because they understand some English now, and you can hold them accountable. So you're already leading. That's why you're not seeing it. You're not going to see it. If you start seeing it, that means that you're not doing as good of a job. This means you're doing an excellent job. These dogs believe you. These dogs are listening to you. They're satisfied in their life because you do satisfy them and you get them what they need to be dogs, which is important. But you also say, here's the rules and no bullshit. You're not going to see it. You're just not going to see it. So, maybe here and there you might see one feel extra, funky and start trying some stuff one day, but you'll be on that. So if you're not seeing it, you're doing it right. You're doing it right. Now, again, the question is how to put a dog in their place. We're going to get to that over the course of the next few videos, but I wanted to give you an idea of how and why it's done, right? Because why the small conversations matter. Now let's move to human to dog. How is a human going to have conversations without being on all fours, barking and growling at a dog, right? It comes down to simply, if you want to have the rawest conversation, the dog doesn't know any English, the dog doesn't have any training, you do it over food. You could do it over food, right? So you could take a piece of food, a piece of steak, and put it on the ground and tell the dog that it's yours. You claim, it's all about resources though. It's not don't touch it because I said so. It's don't touch it because it's mine. There's a difference in the way you're going to come across if you think that way. And that's because that's the way dogs think. The dog isn't thinking don't touch it because I said so. The dog's thinking don't touch it because it's mine. No matter what it is. If it's the human it's protecting, if it's a bone, if it's food, if it's the couch, if it's another dog, this is what they're thinking. That's a resource and that's mine. So that's how we have to come across. And if we learn to treat everything like a resource, tap into that type of conversation where don't touch this food because it's mine. Listen, and once you get that, you can say, don't touch this, don't go on this couch because it's mine, right? You can also say, hey, get out of this room because I don't want you here right now. Okay, these all sound good, right? Now I can say, don't touch these people, which are my guests, because they're mine. Don't go up on every old tree and trash can while we're walking down the street because they're mine. Don't go barking at this dog because it's mine. I know this sounds weird, but if you enter it that way, the dog understands it as, okay, all this shit is his. All the new stuff that I haven't seen yet, he gets first access to, and then because he's a good leader, he will eventually stop and let me go and explore and enjoy some of it. But because the dog sees it as I have first access to all the resources versus I'm a human who's just going to tell you what not to do, certain things not to do and certain things that are okay, it sees me as a pack member because I'm thinking with that pack mentality. When we enter a new environment, I want to decide where we go and how we do it because that's a resource. And the dog will see that. That's what I want. It's not I want you in heel because I want you in heel. That happens after. That's layered on top of this underlying conversation, animal to animal, because I want to do it first. I'm the same as you. I'm thinking the same as you, dog. Now that we're at this new place, I want to be the ones to go out first. And then I'll let you know when you can come over. And this dogs do it to each other. So it escapes even trainers how to have that conversation of like that. How to dip into that pack mentality and start having conversations with your dog through the lens of the pack, of hierarchy. And that's all about resources. Who can do what, when, where, and how. Who chooses. Who leads. Now, let's talk about putting a dog in their place. When people say put a dog in their place, it's because the dog's stepping their bounds. Okay? It's because the dog's being rude. It's being disrespectful. Here's an example. Let's rewind 50 years when it was common for a kid to not be able to talk at the dinner table unless spoken to, right? Not happening these days. The kid runs the dinner. But let's say it's like don't speak until you're spoken to. Okay? And now the adults are having a conversation and the kid just starts busting out and talking and being annoying, right? If I were to tell you that story, then say, well, then the dad put the kid in its place, what would happen in your head visually? Everyone's going to see something different. Well, maybe he just said, Tommy, knock it off. Maybe he swatted him. I don't know what he did. But what I'm saying is Tommy broke a rule and got punished for breaking the rule. That's putting him in his place. Remember. It's saying, remember, don't do that. Why? Well, there doesn't need to be a why, because this member of your family, who happens to be your dad or mom, said why. But the thing is, Tommy has to be able to get a consequence. If he kept opening his mouth, right? He'd have to have a consequence that worked. Maybe he goes to his room. I don't know. I'm not talking about kid behavior. That's not what I'm into, right? But what I'm saying, putting a dog in his place, is you leading a tight ship, the dog understanding there's certain rules because you've already told them, and when they break those rules, you drop what you're doing and you deal with it. You correct and then you direct. Simple as that, right? Well, my dog won't do this or won't do that. It's like, I know. That's what dogs do. You think my dog listened to me the first time I asked it to do something? It's not like it just listens to you. Here's what you do. You correct, and then you direct. And then it's like, well, how do I correct? Good question. I thought you would never ask. That's part of your responsibility as a dog owner to go learn. You need to learn how to do it. I'm not going to show you on this video. I don't even have a dog to work with, right? You can see him on my videos. You can see him on the hundreds of other videos. You need to concern yourself with how to correct and punish a dog properly, effectively, and get good at it. So that way you don't have to do it often, and your dog's well behaved. That you need to know, because if you need to put your dog in their place, you're going to need to know how to physically correct them. You're going to need to know how. And if that's choking you up, like you can't figure out how to do that, maybe a dog isn't for you, right? Because they're going to become a mess. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything here. Oh, and directing a dog. You need to know how to like talk to a dog without using high levels of energy and lots of words. You have to learn how to direct a dog, and you have to learn how to correct a dog. You have to do that on your own. That's part of the parenting process. Who you study, what you study is up to you, but you have to learn it. Whether you hire a trainer or something, you got to learn it. You got to learn it. You know what I don't have to teach you? How to pet it and how to buy it a new toy. I don't have to teach you how to do that. You got that covered. But you need to take the responsibility to go learn these things. How do I put a dog into its place? Well, now that you know what it is and what it means, because I've taken the past 40 minutes, however long I've been doing this, to explain it to you, it comes down to you understanding, learning how to do the correction, multiple different ways probably, and also how to give a dog direction. And then being wise to knowing when and where to do that. What rude dog behavior is, which is what we're going to cover throughout the rest of the week. Now, listen, if you guys want to leave questions, I'm going to get to some of these. If you want to leave questions, if you want to leave just anything, if you want to let me know some of your experiences of when you started to take control of your dog and how that went or where you're struggling, leave it in the comments, because I will try to use those as fuel and direction for the next ones, because this is something that I just wish, honestly, it's something I'm going to be talking about the rest of my career, but I almost wish I didn't have to, because I just wish that this was common knowledge. I really do. But there's a lot of other, if you look up the stuff I'm talking to you and then you go about, you're going to notice there's people, there's direct opposites out there. There's people that are going to tell you the opposite of what I'm telling you. But it depends on what you want out of your dog. If you want a dog who listens to you and respects you and you can live a good life with them, and you're not dealing with all this nonsense all the time, then a trainer like myself is the place to go. If you're okay with your dog being somewhat bratty, which a lot of people are okay with a certain level that I'm not okay with, then and you're okay with it not listening to you all the time, and you just want to have fun with it, then I'm not the trainer for you, right? So, but there are definitely trainers for you. Okay, so here we go. Leave those questions. I'm going to read whatever we got on here, and we're going to get going tomorrow and seeing where we can take this conversation. I think we need to get into showing you guys some correction stuff. So possibly tomorrow. Let me know what you think. I think maybe I'm going to bring an e-collar on the show, a pet convincer, a slip lead, a prong collar, a bonker, and just to show some of the tools and explain how they're used a little bit might be helpful. But then, of course, dog whispering, because that's where I started, and that's where I recommend everybody to start. Dog whispering is great because the tool, other than a slip lead, is literally you. You are the tool. You have to learn to speak with your body. You have to learn all that stuff. I know people don't have the time to learn that shit. I know that. But if you're asking my opinion, we took this approach when socializing Gus. He tends to take things too fast with other dogs, which leads to fights, right? We used the e-collar to correct the rushing and slow things down and had success. Nice work. Nice work. And so you had the ability to also calm his mind down. Okay, so that's important. The e-collar will calm the mind down if it's done right. That's awesome. It's really great. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything here. Okay, so I'm doing this with you guys. I'm literally coming up with the criteria on the spot, but thank you for your question. I can't remember who asked the question about how to put a dog in their place. Like, really freaking great question, and one that I want to dive into more. So we got a little bit on the dominance hierarchy and all that stuff tomorrow, I think. What do you guys think? Yay or nay? Should we go into tools and actually show the tools and all that stuff? Maybe yes. We got to remember there's a lot of new people on here. We want to get them caught up with the people who are more experienced, so then we can keep moving into getting our dogs better every day. I'm making sure I didn't. Yeah, we covered socialization and stuff a little bit, but we can also do more. So, all right, guys. Tomorrow, I can't promise it. My mind might change, but I'm thinking about tools. Thinking about getting into tools and starting to talk about the difference between them and all that. Okay, that's it. We did it. I'm just making sure I didn't miss any questions. Thank you for joining. You guys are great. Really appreciate you. I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Make sure you have yourself a fantastic Monday and start the week off strong.